Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
All right, everybody, let's get right into it. Aggie basketball found that secret recipe, or the recipe we've actually known for the last couple of years, getting it all done. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in my own Rollo Insurance studio in Houston, Texas. I'll explain that here in a moment. But let's bring in our Heisman Trophy voter, Olin Buchanan, who's always part of the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. OB, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? And how is everything with your family?
We're okay. We're okay. Good. So not to make it too personal here, my dad had a really bad fall on Friday right before the show started, and that's why I headed out early. He's in the hospital right now dealing with some other complications because of the fall, but I think he's trending in the right direction. Good. So thank you, OB, for asking. By the way, I was in the hospital all weekend, and I'll be going right after this show, and I was watching on my phone the Aggie basketball game, and on the TV the Texans playoff game, and it was weird, OB, because this seems like when we talk about this Aggie basketball team, we knew this was the recipe. I think they've got to embrace who they are, and I think they're starting to do that. You're not a good shooting team, so you're just going to have to get every rebound possible and put all the putbacks back, because that is your secret offense.
Yeah, what they have something crazy like 27 offensive rebounds. I may be.
I think that's right.
Is that accurate? I know it was a ridiculous number. Where I was encouraged was that they were only down 2 at halftime, despite the fact that Wade Taylor got in foul trouble and was scoreless in the first half. I'm thinking, some guys stepped up. I think there were 5 different guys hit 3-pointers, which is kind of amazing in itself for A&M, right? And one of them wasn't Wade in the first half. And, other guys stepped up, which is what we haven't seen often enough to keep A&M in contention. And then when Wade came back, he was able to make some really big plays for them and picked up a really impressive win over a better than we thought they'd be team on the road in LSU.
Look, they have to claw their way to the victory. I like the lineup change. Jace Carter's impressing me, man. These last few games, each game I'm seeing a little bit more. I'm like, I need to see more of this guy in the lineup, and when we got that.
Yeah, he really played well, and quite frankly, almost everybody did. For A&M, I think they actually they were amazing at the 3-point line for A&M by A&M standards, which are very low. So they had a big night at the 3-point line for A&M, and even I think they ended up when it was over with shooting around 37%, which isn't good, but much of the game they were over 40%, which for A&M's not too bad. I'm talking about overall. But, Anderson Garcia keeps making those plays that nobody, that are easy to forget. But they're the type of plays that when it's all over with, you look back and you see how key they are. And then Wade with a big 3 and 2 clutch free throws in the final minutes. And, Solomon Washington made some just guys stepped up and made significant contributions. And that's what they're going to have. And Henry only played about 10 minutes. And I don't even think they wanted to play him. He didn't start, I don't believe, but I think they put him in out of necessity and probably because he wanted to play. But again, it's a team that's far from full strength. And to win on the road under those circumstances, that's not only impressive, man. That's something they really needed.
Well, look, you mentioned Anderson Garcia. I have a type, right? And excuse me if that sounds funny, but I have a type of basketball player that I like, and he looks like Anderson Garcia. And A&M, to Buzz's credit, is full of players of that style of mentality. The thing that I think it goes understated about Anderson, he's becoming a reliable offensive player. He's not nobody's drawing up plays for Anderson Garcia, but you trust him when he gets the ball under the basket. You trust him with a little quick putback. Every once in a while, an occasional three. I think from that respect, Anderson has really become a reliable guy that sometimes can give you a double-double, but you need him out there on the floor at all times.
Well, they definitely need him. He, again, I got to be real careful the way I'm trying to say this because it'd be easy to say, oh, you're crazy. He's a lot like, just in his contribution, not necessarily in his style of play, but in his contribution, he's a lot like Alex Caruso was in that he makes so many significant plays that are kind of overshadowed. He's not always looking to score. Even Buzz said he doesn't like to shoot. He's looking for somebody else to shoot, get it in the hands of your best players, but I'll go get it and give you extra chances. But then he makes those heady plays.
Yeah.
I don't know where they'd be without him.
Well, OB, it kind of goes back to what we've been saying for a while. And look, this is a game where Wade Taylor, at least in the first half, did not play very much.
Right.
A game that we didn't see that much of Henry Coleman, and a game where you needed others to step up. I thought Boots stepped up, and they stepped up in a way that, kind of like what we discussed on Friday, and we'll go over some of the things that I had for 3 things I want to see. But, it's not like we need another 30-point shooter. When I say we, A&M basketball, we'd gladly take another 30-point scorer.
Right.
But somebody just to be a reliable guy getting to the rim, somebody giving you some double-digit points and where the defense has to account for you at all times. And that's what A&M got with Boots and from Jace Carter and from others.
Yeah, it was – if you could get that performance but without the Wade having to miss all of the – almost all the first half and then – Henry playing a whole game. So if you can get healthy and get that performance, guys, I'm not, I know what you're saying. You're not asking for somebody else to have that game like Boots had against Auburn last year. But guys go in and making significant contributions and playing well, and then just have Wade being Wade, then you can go out and beat anybody. But if you're not healthy, and then if Wade gets in foul trouble, or if you have one of those games where – because you can't count on Wade to score 19 points in a half or 30 points in a game every night. So you got to get away from that. But fortunately, maybe we're seeing the signs that they're breaking out of that with what Jace, like you're referring to, with what Jace has done, what Anderson has done. Boots is starting – he's still erratic on his shot, but he's starting to produce – again, the way we'd expect Boots Radford to. And, if that's going to be more of a consistent thing, then you don't have to rely on Wade to go out and score the volume that he's been scoring at lately. But you hope he does. I think he scored, 70, 82, about 99 points in the last 3 games, 98 points in 3 games, something crazy like that.
Well, OB, now at 2-3 in SEC play, look, I know how this works, right? The day or a couple days after a game, there's this emotional roller coaster attached to a win or a loss, right? Mm-hmm. You lose, you wonder, are they ever going to win again? Can they ever hit a shot again? When they beat an LSU team, some would be like, well, LSU wasn't expected to be good, but they're pretty good, guys, and they got some talent, all right? So now you look at it at 2-3 in SEC play as a real opportunity because, Look, I know you still got a real tough matchup this weekend, but you got some opportunity to feel better. Can we pull up the schedule?
Next 3 games at home.
Sorry?
Next 3 games at home. Are they
Next
not?
3 games at home. Opportunities to get stuff done.
Yeah, and Missouri's a team that's struggling, so you got to make sure they continue to struggle. Ole Miss has been up and down. Florida I think that they got a big guy that can play, so that concerns me a little bit. And then you go to Missouri, like I said, they're struggling. I would think I would expect, but not take for granted, that A&M would win the next 4. I would think they'd be favored in the next 4 until you have Tennessee coming down. Then we'll reevaluate. But yes, there's absolutely an opportunity for A&M to get on a roll here.
Let's go back into the 3 things I want to see from this weekend. That and Obi, I don't know if you remember yours, but I do have mine in front of me. The first thing that I had here, as my computer freezes up, a wingman, a Robin, a sidekick. Can somebody else score? And they got that. They got that from a couple of guys, and it wasn't splashy as we just talked about, but we did see other people contribute offensively that opened up Wade and also kept the team afloat when Wade wasn't out there in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was so critical that they were able to, again, keep A&M in contention. So many guys that were, like you said, just maybe not stars by any means, but just made such significant contributions that were so key. By the way, let me throw this in before we go any further. LSU was 1 for their last 8 shots down the stretch, just like at the end of Kentucky in the overtime. A&M, sometimes their defense is up and down, but, man, lately when they've had to have it, boy, they've really clamped down. But
yeah, they can certainly clamp down at the end of the game. And I think it's interesting, as I'm watching the game on Saturday, there's a point where A&M had a stretch where they weren't scoring. I forget if it was 4 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever the stretch was. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope this is not the narrative we're talking about again, about an A&M team going cold. And A&M not only played great defense down the stretch, they hit big buckets down the stretch as well, OB.
Yeah, that 3-pointer by Wade to give him a 3-point lead, and then Wade with 2 clutch free throws. That was just enough. Now, do they need to shoot better? Yes, they need to. Will they? We don't know. But they play the way I guess we've gotten accustomed to seeing Buzz Williams teams play. It's just with a tenacity and, force the other team to take bad shots, get the rebounds, get second shots, and, just manufacture enough points to win. And hopefully, like I said, they'll be able to continue to do that and get on a nice, significant winning streak here.
The second thing I wanted to see, OB, I didn't necessarily get, but I'm okay I didn't get it because the percentage was good, and also it was not that different from LSU. Less threes. A&M didn't necessarily take less threes. They took 33 threes, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I'm going to revisit the box score here. Yep, 33. But they made 10 of them. So I'll take that percentage compared to what we've seen in the past. LSU only made 11 of 34, so not that different. So they didn't take less threes, but they were more efficient from 3, and also they were right in the same ballpark as their opponent.
Yeah, and a lot of times when they've lost, the 3-point stats have been significant, or not even hugely in favor of the opponent. So, I'll say this. I would take 10 for 33 every game from here on out and say, if that's what you're going to give me, I'll take it. And, I'll take my chances with that.
All right, if you want to be part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. By the way, this is Coffee Talk, presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of the morning by going to texags.com/coffee, taking my sip of my TexAgs coffee. I don't get paid for that endorsement. It's just what we do here on TexAgs. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can text us, 979-693-1150. What do you think about the Aggie basketball performance? Any other thoughts in college sports or even the NFL to get into? We will talk about Dan Campbell and those Detroit Lions. You can call us as well at that same number, 979-693-1150. We go behind the glass and we say hello to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all. And David, I'm actually going to talk about a little bit of Dan Campbell right now. I'm sure you saw Texas A&M football Twitter account kind of took the Detroit Lions post of Dan Campbell's post-game speech. It's about a minute long. I'm going to play it here because I think if you're an Aggie, you got to hear it. So here's Dan Campbell post-game.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you, we talked about it all year. This started a long time ago. You're built for this. You're built for this, man. And look what you guys did. You went out there, and it's another hot team that we knocked off. It's the next hot team that you knock off. You know how hard it is to win in this league in the playoffs? Do you understand what you're doing right now? What we're capable of? That's 2. All right, that's 2. We got 2 to go. With a bye in the middle. I'm unbelievably proud of everybody in here, man. Coaches, players. That's the way to mount up, man. That's a fucking difficult team to beat, man. All right, I got 1 game ball, man. In the game, need to fucking play. Derek Barnes.
Pretty cool.
First of all,
I would love to play for Dan Campbell. Not that I do anything well, but if I could, I would love to play for a coach like Dan Campbell. And it's interesting how many talk shows right now, Nick, you can join us on this, have revisited his opening day press conference. And if you listen to Aggies, like we all, like day one, we knew. I don't know if we knew they would be in the NFC Championship game, but we knew this guy had something special. And it's interesting seeing these media members having to eat a little crow right now.
Oh, boy, they're having to eat a lot of crow. Yeah, it was easy to laugh at the biting the kneecaps and ankles and all those things. But you know what? Not literally, but figuratively, that's what that team does. And there's a cliche in sports that a team takes on the personality of its coach. And I think nowhere do you see that cliche being justified, is not the word I want, reinforced than in Detroit with Dan Campbell.
Hey, we've got Nick here. I asked him a little bit earlier. OB, I'll chat with you about it. I missed the Bronny wedding. I know it was all over the message boards. I missed it. OB, did you cut a rug?
I actually missed the wedding, but I got there in time for the reception, so I didn't miss the food. But yeah, I had to cover the basketball game.
Yeah,
basketball game started at 3. The wedding started at 4. But fortunately, the place where they had the reception wasn't too far from my house. So once I got my article done, I drove over there. Just as Ryan and Ashley were about to walk in and be presented to the reception and all that. So good barbecue, as you would expect. Did not do any dancing. The beautiful Mrs. Buchanan couldn't make it. And, she's the only one I dance with because, frankly, nobody else would want to dance with me. But that's so I didn't dance. Plus, they were doing all that line dancing. And I'm just not a line dancer.
Not a fan either, OB. It's too complicated.
I like to, when I'm dancing, I like to have my partner in my arms and, woo her with my moves.
Did we get any Bad Bunny played at the wedding?
I didn't hear any. But you know what? If they did, I wouldn't know it.
Nick, any urban contemporary music?
Oh yeah, there was. I couldn't tell you who. There's a lot of Cajun swing music too. It was pretty. I was a fan of that.
There might have been. I don't know if there's any Bad Bunny, but there might have been some Eddie Rabbit because there was a lot of country music.
A lot of country music out there, huh?
So Eddie Rabbit, maybe.
You guys will be proud. Wife and I and the kids planning our rodeo experience, what concerts we want to go to. Eric Church, a lot of those dudes. So we're kind of Whiskey Myers going to the rodeo. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to go to.
Well, yippee-yay.
You probably don't know either of those.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Hey, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. That's where we find Matthew Dawson. Matthew, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. Hope everything is well with your family, David, as well as
Thank you.
everyone in the chat saying that as well. So I'm sure David appreciates that a lot. Our own Eric Casares. How about that? In their Invitational, a 4:05 mile for first place. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that, OB? He's fast.
I know sometimes I'm behind people coming to work, and I think they couldn't drive a mile that fast. But, Eric, now there's a Bad Bunny right there, Eric. He's like a rabbit, jackrabbit, the way he runs.
That guy sticks around. We've been trying to get rid of him for so long, but he comes back every year. He's always here, buddy, right around this time.
And
I'm kidding, Eric. We love you, buddy.
He's a heck of a runner.
Unbelievable.
And great at what he does here at the Social Center. And he's got a podcast. He's doing it all.
Yeah.
What else, Matthew?
Well, women's tennis preseason polls came out for SEC. They ranked number 1 in the preseason polls, and they had their opening weekend against Harvard and ACU, 6-1, 7-0. Mary Stoyana looking awesome. I mean, we're cooking over there in ladies tennis.
Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver. Swimming team as well. I mean, we just didn't lose this weekend. The Aggies just did not lose.
Well,
Swimming and diving, men and women's.
Well,
handled.
there was one loss,
Well,
but it was understandable.
We could talk about that as well. But swimming and diving, they absolutely destroyed LSU. Men's won 182 to 118. Women's won 171 to 126 in the pool. That was awesome. So, and women's basketball. But South Carolina looked like the number one team in the country.
But it's the number one team in the country.
They looked like the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
Hey, one step at a time.
One step.
They're on their way. They're on their way.
They are definitely trending upward.
If you all want to be a part of the conversation, you know how to do it. I already told you, but 979-693-1150. All right, OB. Can we talk food?
Let's do it. I always like to talk food.
How do you spell food?
Fargo.
Oh, look at you. See? I tried to give you a curveball. You knew how to answer that.
Well, but of course, when it comes to spelling, Richard Zane will tell you I have a lot of typos. But I spell food, especially on Tuesdays, FARGRORIBTIPS.
So I'm at the hospital on Saturday. My brother Alex is there. And he goes, hey, Obi really, really likes rib tips, huh? I go, oh, yeah. He loves them rib tips.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get paid anything for that. I'm just telling you the truth. I wouldn't say I liked it if I didn't. And those rib tips are amazing. But I've said it before. I also like that chopped beef on the baked potato. I've had a great chopped beef sandwich. I've had their pork ribs. I am not limited to the rib tips. I just really love the rib tips. I like everything I've had at Fargo's.
Oh, but you know I'm a protein guy.
Yeah,
huge protein guy.
You are.
But if I decided to, you know what, I'm going to mix it up a little bit, get a little protein, and what carb do you think, carb/fat, would I go with?
Well, it would be macaroni and cheese. So Thursday's your day. But you can get macaroni and cheese, I believe, any day.
Dude,
any day except Sunday and Monday.
Fargo, 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the
best barbecue in Texas, which equates to the best barbecue in the universe.
That's their trademark.
Well, that's because it's true.
Oh, that's right.
Facts.
Fargo's. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio here in Houston, Texas. And it is the Go Hour, presented by the warehouse at CC Creations. OB is at the real Rollo Insurance Studio there in College Station as we're doing the show from different locations. All good because I can see him, he can see me. OB, we started with basketball. Our buddy Brad, a little surprise. We started with basketball often. We love talking basketball.
Especially after a win over LSU. Especially after a win over LSU.
Heck yeah. And to be honest with you, like my career started in basketball. When I say in basketball, not like playing, but you know, that's really where I cut my teeth was with the Dallas Mavericks, the Houston Rockets. And also my first media job, on-air job, was covering the A&M basketball team when Billy Gillespie was there back in 2005.
I started my journalism career taking basketball scores over the phone at the Longview Morning Journal. So,
do people still do that, like, or do they just use Twitter now, do you think? Because I had to do that for KBTX back in the day.
I have no idea. I've been away from that so long. I don't know what they do anymore. I have to ask Cease.
I remember when I was getting into the industry, OB, the old media guys, when I say old, like us, our age, 45 and up, would be like, I wouldn't get in the business if I were you. It's going in a weird direction. And I feel like that's what our generation now is telling the new people.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of times when I wish I'd listened to those old guys. But fortunately, it's
not
worked
here in
out.
TexAgs.
No, well, yeah, TexAgs was my lifeline, thank goodness. Otherwise, I'd probably be working in a grocery store in Tennessee right now. But it is a hard business. And I tell everybody, sometimes I'm asked to talk to students, always tell them, my first advice is don't get in it. My second advice, if you're going to do it, make sure you have a backup plan. Because, you know, there might come a time when you don't want to do it anymore because you get tired of working weekends and nights. Or your wife or significant other is tired of you doing that. But there's no doubt that it's fun. And if you got like in our case, if you have like a spouse that supports that, man, you're really lucky. And and it can be a lot of fun. And I think that was always more important to me, is enjoying my job was more important than making, extra money.
It's always more fun covering a team that wins. Like for us, especially at TexAgs, like I'm an Aggie. Like I root for these teams. But even when you are covering a team that you don't necessarily have an allegiance to, going into a locker room of a winning team throughout the season makes the job so much more pleasurable. And going in a locker room of a losing team the questions get harder. They get agitated more easy. Like you can't wait for the season to be over. And we go through that sometimes here. Like we're just ready for the year to be done. But that's one of the parts. Like you better love it if you're going to do this industry, because you're going to lose. Your teams are going to lose more than they win unless you're in New England for the last 20 years.
And now you're dealing with the other part now, even if you covered New England. Yeah, if your team doesn't win, that's why you're supposed to have a cordial relationship with coach, but don't be buddies with them, because the time's going to come, perhaps, that you have to ask some really difficult questions if a team is struggling of that coach. And, if you're buddies, you may not do that. You may not want to do that. So anyway.
Hey, I'm glad you said that, OB, because I may have told this story in the air, but I'm going to say it. There's two different occasions where that didn't bite me in the butt, but it could have. One was years back, I'd say maybe 2012 or 13, or around that range. I was interviewed by a national network, one that covers a particular sport that we talk about a lot, right? And they had their own channel. And in one of the interviews, they asked me about my relationships in the Texans locker room. It was probably before 12. And I remember my response being, "Oh, I'm friends with so-and-so, or I'm good buddies with this guy." And, and the producer at the time, who used to come from the print world, he goes, "Hey man, in the future, in an interview, don't tell that you're friends with so-and-so, because I don't want you to be friends. I want you to have a good relationship with them. But if you are the friend of so-and-so, are you going to be able to report on them the way you need to as a journalist, not worry about your friendship, you're going to have to be a real journalist in that situation. And it's very hard when you have that kind of relationship." And that always stuck with me.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I like I liked, on the surface, Jimbo Fisher. I liked him. I didn't have anything against him. But after that Tennessee game, you have to say, hey, you know, what do you say to the people that no longer think you can get this job done? That's a hard question to ask a guy that you like. But can you ask the guy that question if you're really good friends? Now, let me tell you something. There's been some other coaches I've been looking forward to asking them the tough question because I didn't get along with them very well. I like Buzz Williams, right? But and I'm glad that they won that game, and I hope they go on a long run because, like you know, I didn't go to A&M, but I'm invested in A&M, so I want them to have success. But even if there was an opportunity to be, quote, buddies with the coach, you just can't because you got to be able to separate that. And I don't know how we got on this, but it's just part of the, you know, what the way you have to approach your job. Now, when I was a national writer, I wasn't friends with anybody. So I'd go in, win locker rooms and losing locker rooms. It'd be about the same. But anyway, I don't know how we got on this. But, yeah, that's kind of the way you have to approach your job, I think.
All right, let's hit a break here. I want you to catch me up on the NFL when we come back. I mean, I watched the Texans. I watched part of the Lions game. But there were some other things I didn't watch, so we'll talk about that. And we got some other things to get. Oh, Jordan Peterson, not the guy from Canada. The coach.
No, guy from
joining,
Lexington.
Say that, OB?
The guy from Lexington.
The guy from Lexington.
I bet he's had some of that Snow's barbecue.
Well, we'll talk about that, and we'll get to your text messages at 979-693-1150. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve, farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide-open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that by creating the sanctuary for family, for nature, and for each other. They've done such a wonderful job there with their 2,600 acres of open space. They've got farms, they've got trails, they got it all out there. 30 miles of trails when you go to Milliken Reserve, and they do a wonderful job of connecting families to nature and to each other through a network of trails throughout a wooded landscape. It's a place for generation after generation just to come together and enjoy being outdoors. And that's really what Milliken Reserve is all about. It's raining hard in Houston right now. I'm not sure what it's like in CSTX and Bryan, but it's probably not the best time to go outdoors. But when it gets outdoors, that is the place you want to go. Hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, you name it. They got it all there at Milliken Reserve. And the website to check it all out is millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. We are back here on a rainy Monday morning. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looked so good with Maroon U, OB in studio. I am on location in Houston. OB, catch me up, all right? So I'm seeing Norwood tweeted all over the place. I know what happened.
Yeah.
Well, kind of explain. I wasn't watching the Buffalo game. I was tending to my dad at that time. But take me through it, because I hear Josh Allen gets a little bit of the blame as well. It's not just the missed field goal.
Well, he does. Now, in the fourth quarter, he threw 2 long passes that were really well thrown that could have been huge. I mean, I'm talking like 40 and 50-yard gains, and his receivers dropped them, including Diggs, which was the worst one. But they're at the end. They're trying to win the game. They had a chance to win the game, and it's 3rd and 8. And he has Stephon Diggs crossing wide open. If you throw it to him, he's going to catch it and cut up field and probably be inside the 15, maybe the 10. Instead, he tries to throw downfield in what I thought was going to be a very low percentage that it was going to be completed anyway, but I think got deflected, and so incomplete. So now they have to kick the field goal. Take the. He didn't take the layup. He tried to go for the windmill reverse jam and threw it off the back iron, right? When a layup was all you need. So now they have to kick the field goal to tie, and then they're going to be if he kicks the field goal, preventing Pat Mahomes from going down and scoring, because there'd still be about a minute to go. Well, the guy misses the field goal. It's about 40 yards. You expect a professional kicker, as long as the snap is good and the hold is good, a professional kicker should be able to make a between 45 and 40-yard field goal. I mean, you get paid millions of dollars. And he shanked it. It came off. It looked like it was going to go. I mean, it looked like it was going to be good. And then it, I guess, what would that, if you were playing golf, hooks to the right?
Slice?
It sliced to the left, hooks to the right, whichever. Anyway, so it kind of hooked to the right, I guess you would say, or slide, I don't know. But it went right, just like Scott Norwood in the Super Bowl, Norwood in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, they had their opportunities. Tough break. I thought I was actually hoping they'd win. I'm in the house with a Raiders fan, so, of course, they're yelling vehemently against the Chiefs. And I like Josh Allen, but he's going to make it harder for me to defend him from critics.
Well, what I heard. I was listening to the show before ours on ESPN, and a caller brought up an interesting point. As good as Josh Allen has been, he has not had an elite coach by him, right? And there's talk of maybe Bill Belichick could end up at Buffalo, and how that changes the trajectory of his career.
I will say that the coach from the Bills decided to try a fake punt on like 4th and 5 at his own 40, and it got blown up. And at the time, the Bills were down 3, and but they got very fortunate because the Chiefs went right down and looked like they were going to score the knockout punch. And the guy fumbles at the 1-yard line, and the ball rolls into the end zone and out of bounds. So they got a stay of execution, but they couldn't take advantage of it. Either drop passes or, again, there at the end, he just went to the wrong guy.
I feel like I'm in 1986, OB, because in my parents' office, which is where I'm doing the show from, the phone is ringing, and it feels like I haven't heard a phone ring like this a long time, because most of us have the way our cell phones ring, right? Or like a vibrate or a certain tone,
right?
And they've got the old-fashioned phone just going to town.
I kind of miss that. The old-fashioned phone, yeah.
It's soothing.
I kind of miss the old days. But I miss the old days about like Josh Allen missed that receiver at the end of the game, or that guy missed the field goal.
Speaking of a receiver, I know they're not going to be able to go on, but Mike Evans, again, man.
I wonder if that was his last game for the Bucs, and a lot of people say it project that it will be. Well, he sure went out with a blaze of glory. 8 catches, 147 yards, a touchdown. I think it was 2, maybe 3 big catches on a drive for a touchdown just before the half. I think the Bucks went like 90 yards in a minute for a touchdown. I think Evans had, 2 long catches and maybe even another one on that one. But yeah, he's been so brilliant. He's my favorite Aggie player, I think, ever. You know, a guy that had great physical talent, but that wasn't enough for him. He was going to do everything he could to make himself the best he could be, and I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day. But you know what? You know who else had a touchdown in that game? Josh Reynolds. So 2 A&M receivers on both teams, and both of them have touchdowns in that game.
So now it sets up a showdown, Lions and Niners.
Yep.
And, man, I think the Lions are going to win. And I hate to say it out loud because I know people say, oh, you jinxed them. But, that style of football, the way they're playing, OB, and, look, I haven't been that impressed with San Francisco recently. They're winning, obviously.
Yeah, they were very fortunate by a missed field goal as well. Look, I think San Francisco will win that game. I hope they do not. I'll be rooting hard for the Lions because growing up, they were my second favorite team because their uniforms were similar to Dallas's. I know that's a great analysis and a reason why I like a team, but that's how it was when I was a kid. And then Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn and Josh Reynolds. By the way, Aaron Glenn's done an amazing job, and a lot of people think he may be a head coach next season. Hope so for his sake. But, and plus that's just an easy team to root for. You know, they were downtrodden for so long. And then they hired Dan Campbell, and so many of the people that act like they're experts were like, oh, what a terrible hire, and look at this guy, and and what do you know? Here's this guy that's turned down a franchise that's been a laughing stock since 94. Kind of like another team I know. But anyway, and he's got them in the NFC Championship game. That's incredible. The job he's done in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. And so, you think the Niners will win?
I think.
What about
so.
in the AFC?
I think the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens are going to beat the Chiefs, and I think a big reason, because I'm very provincial in my thinking, but I think Justin Matabike is just going to go out there and kick some ass and take some names. Mahomes, Otto, he's going to go out there and play well, and of course I'm sure Lamar Jackson will have something to do with it as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Can we talk for a moment? Well, let's do it on the next segment because this is already 8:45, and I'm going to try. I was really bad the other day of hitting brakes on time. When we come back, I do want to talk about Jordan Peterson coming to Texas A&M. We'll get to some text messages, and we'll finish out the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at Fifi Creations. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Traveling Aggies Expo coming up this Friday from 1:30 to 6 o'clock. If you love to travel and you want to see the world with your friends, those Aggies out there, right? Your Aggies, your family. The Traveling Aggies program is going to take you and a friend on a once-in-a-lifetime adventure around the world. All details arranged by trusted travel partners. They invite you to explore those possibilities at this Friday's Traveling Aggies Expo Showcase 2025, an exclusive event unveiling those amazing trips. Again, January 26th, 1:30 to 6 at the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center, where you can learn about upcoming adventures as travel partners will host short sessions highlighting their unique destinations. You can also take advantage of special trip savings at the expo. Please enjoy a free Messina Hoff wine tasting, door prizes, and a chance to win grand prize of an Aggie baseball weekend, which includes 2 tickets to A&M baseball game in the association suite, 2-night stay at the A&M Hotel and Conference Center, dinner for 2 at the Vintage House restaurant located at the Messina Hoff, and a Messina Hoff wine basket. To learn more or register, all you need to do is visit tx.ag/travel expo. That is tx.ag/travel expo. It is the Association of Former Students. OB, your mouth got really wide open there.
I know. I'm jamming to Boston here.
You ever been to Boston Market?
I have.
Just
I liked it. Been to Boston, Massachusetts twice to cover BC games.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They lost
Glenn
them both.
Foley?
Huh?
Glenn Foley?
I don't know.
He was their quarterback in 1993.
No, I actually saw Matt Ryan when he was quarterbacking there.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I saw him
Hey,
lose.
it's TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour coming to a close, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's kind of go through this Jordan Peterson hire, and then, the staff is all good, my friend. Jordan Peterson, I would say better than up and coming, one of the better recruiters out there, doing big things, coming back home.
What does our fearless leader, Billy Liucci, say? He says, look at how, when you hire a guy, look at the reaction from the place he's leaving. And the reaction was not good at Kansas. They were not glad to see him go. Why would they be? He's from what I understand, he was one of their better recruiters, and defensive backs coach. They gave him a title as assistant or co-defensive coordinator, and you do that because you want to keep him around. Right. Kansas was second in the Big 12 in pass defense last year. Kansas was second in the Big 12 in pass defense. Kansas. I feel like Allen Iverson. We're talking about Kansas. Not Texas. We're talking about Kansas, not Oklahoma. Kansas was second. And obviously, as a defensive backs coach, he had a big part of that. So when you consider that he's they had an all-conference guy that I'm sure he coached. So when you consider that he's got a track record of recruiting really well at Kansas and putting to a good competitive unit out on the field at Kansas, and that he went to Texas A&M, man, I think you're checking all the boxes on this one.
Yeah, Obi, I think so too. And let's kind of go through this new defense, because I love the names that I can say out loud, right? Defensive coordinator Jay Bateman, defensive line Sean Spencer, a name that we knew.
Coach
Tony
Chaos. Coach Chaos.
Coach Chaos. Tony Girardetti, Ish Artiside, and Jordan Peterson. That is a nice staff, and again, under the tutelage of Mike Elko,
yep.
who is the defensive brainiac.
He is. He is the people want to call him like the defensive whisperer. I don't think he whispers. He's the defense shouter. He's a heck of a defensive coordinator. There's one when he left Notre Dame. They're like, people are up in arms. What are you doing leaving? When he left here, we were up in arms. No, don't leave. Don't go to Duke. We were hoping Duke would hire Jason Garrett. And now he's back, and I guarantee you that A&M will have an improved defense next year. And it wasn't bad by any means, but I think with Mike Elko around that Elko influence, they'll be even better.
Well, and it's been pretty set for a while now, but let's finish off the complete coaching staff. Offensive coordinator Colin Klein, running backs coach Trooper Taylor, tight end and special teams coach Patrick Doherty, and a wide receivers coach Holman Wiggins. Offensive line coach Adam Cushing. So you got yourself a full staff with some names that I hope they all come together the way that the feeling is right now.
Well, we'll see. I know that Trooper Taylor, I followed him, and this guy's been almost coaching college football almost since he left Cuero, right? He's a big name in that, among running backs coaches, and a heck of a recruiter. But I think A&M had some guys that were good recruiters and maybe not very good position coaches. And I don't think that's good enough for Mike Elko. I think you're going to be able to have to recruit, but you're going to have to teach it as well. And so I think that's another reason to feel good about Texas A&M moving forward is, coaches, I think they'll do a better job developing some of the good talent that they're going to bring in.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Matthew Dawson's there manning it for us. Matthew, any text or news you want to get into?
Well, being Austin text, bring Mike Evans home to the Texans and win a Super Bowl next year. You as a Texans fan, David, I'm sure you'd be pretty excited. He's a Galveston native, right? I'm sure, that wouldn't be the craziest thing, right?
No, Texas need wide receiver help, no doubt about that. Especially when with no Tank Dell out there towards the end, you could feel the difference. Although Nico Collins was great, I want Mike to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if Houston is the right destination, but I'll take it. As a Texas fan, that's what I want. I could see him going to Kansas City because that's the name I heard a lot mentioned during this offseason. Ob.
Yeah, Dallas would be a great place for him because they got a lot of dead weight at receiver. And he doesn't have to be the number one guy.
Yeah. But again, who's this coach going to be?
Thanks for bringing me down to earth.
OB, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for ruining my day.
Talk to you later, buddy.
All right.
Hey, when we come back here on TexAgs Radio, we're going to talk to Tom Hart. We'll join him on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That and more. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, welcome back in. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here on the road in my parents' home studio. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day today. It's rainy out here in the Houston area. Let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's where we're joined by my friend Tom Hart of the SEC Network and ESPN. Tom, good morning, buddy. How you been?
David, how would everybody feel if they knew that there was Bad Bunny playing in that house right now?
My parents, they love Latin music, but they're not big fans of Bad Bunny. They're not into the mumble rap, if you will.
Draw the line. Draw the line. We can stop right there.
Oh, the line stopped. Wait, if it's not 1950s classic Cuban music, they're out.
I respect that.
Hey, so you were on the call, man. What'd you think of I don't want to say it was surprising because it's not surprising, but the way A&M attacked LSU was like, I don't want to say old school either, but that's what they do when they're at their best. They grind out, they find ways, they get more offensive possessions. They did all of that.
I mean, it was borderline ridiculous. Everybody knows what A&M's strength is. It's getting to the glass. I mean, the two guards are fantastic, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys. But in terms of difficulty to prepare for and to execute, it's keeping Anderson Garcia, among others, away from the offensive rebounds. And there was this, I don't know how many possessions there were where A&M got not one but two offensive rebounds. So Aggies aren't a great shooting team. It doesn't matter. They've taken what we think of like conventional basketball stats. You can wad them up and throw them in the basket. And if you miss, Anderson Garcia is probably going to get it and throw it out to Wade Taylor again. They're so good at extending possessions and gaining extra possessions that if they shoot 30%, 28%, it's okay because of that and the fact they don't turn the ball over. 21 offensive rebounds, 27 second chance points. They're really never out of a game, but I think most impressive in the win is that they flipped the script on LSU. They weren't able to do that in the meeting 2 weeks ago in College Station. They're able to pull that off Saturday. And they were able to bide time for Wade Taylor, who had foul trouble in the first half, to get back on the floor and do what he does. And I thought it was a very methodical, patient approach. And that's the identity of this team. Like they're gonna grind you down, and you better show up and play for 2 hours. Otherwise, or in that case, cause a certain broadcaster miss a flight 2 hours and 20 minutes. But I was happy to be there.
Well, Tom, here's the thing. You mentioned it doesn't matter what they shoot. I think there's a fine line, though, right? Because when they take all those ill-advised threes and they're shooting 36 plus and they're only hitting 20%, that's where they fall in these holes. This game, I'll take 31% or 30%, especially the way they rebound.
I think it depends on who's taking those threes, right? And because they are threes, the rebounds are longer. Garcia has mastered the tap out, which was, by the way, I'm sure Buzz would talk about this. His knowledge base in basketball is encyclopedia. If you go back, that was like a Dean Smith staple back in the early 80s, right? If you can't get an offensive rebound, just tap it out, and there's a guard standing out there that can corral it. So it's who's shooting those shots, and if it's Boots and Wade, it's okay, because everybody else is going to the glass, and those guys are standing 25 feet back, ready to get back in transition defense, but oftentimes able to find it. If you get other guys that are taking those shots, sometimes you have one less offensive rebounder. The mindset is a little bit different. Buzz calls them, I think, go-gets, right? If you're an offensive rebounder, you're a go-get guy. The guards, Radford and Taylor, especially Obaseki, I'm sure, they're get-backs. So go-gets and get-backs. It's pretty simple when you use Buzz's language. But so yeah, I think what your observation is fair, but I think that's what makes this team non-traditional, is that the average college basketball fan looks and goes, "God, that's a terrible shot." I mean, the first shot Wade Taylor put up as an Aggie was like a 28-footer. So everybody knew what he was bringing to the table within this system. And thanks to having the Dominican Dennis Rodman inside and Anderson Garcia, it doesn't seem like there are bad shots within the scope of this offense. Well, I tell you what, one thing that they did a little bit differently is the previous two games, when Taylor was on the floor, not in foul trouble, it was a very quick hitting offense with not a lot of ball movement. It was one or two passes. The ball very rarely left Radford's hands or Taylor's hands. It might be between the two, but they got away from, whether by design or just because they got away from, well, let's feed the high post, let him get the offense going, kick out, get an extra pass or two, move some guys around. I worked with Andy Kennedy for a long time. AK is now at UAB, but the former Ole Miss coach. And he goes, man, when I've got to score, I don't need to go from point A to B to C to D to get back to point A. Let the guy who's got the ball shoot it. We're going to cut down on our turnovers, have more chances at a offensive rebound because more guys are going to the glass, and you end up in the same point anyway. And that's what the offense looked like for a couple of games. They went back to like a more normalized approach, I think, Saturday at LSU.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio. Let's go back to Anderson Garcia for a moment because we all see the rebounds and the Rodman comparisons. But I feel like he's becoming a reliable scorer. I don't necessarily want him shooting, but he can get you some points when you need him, another double-double.
Well, he has a knack for the ball, right? I mean, I think that there's two things that go into being a great rebounder. And if I was coaching a junior high team, I would say, boys, it's all about effort. You got to go, go, go. Girls, it's all about effort. Get to the glass, find the ball. And that's true to an extent. But I just think there's also this innate ability to be able to judge where the ball is going. Maybe that comes from thousands of reps. I mean, Oscar Tshiebwe was probably the best rebounder in college basketball history. And I talked to him about it, over the last couple of years. And he said, well, it's all about angles. And I know if it comes up here, it's going to come off over here. But that, while he may have been a really smart player and understood the geometry and the physics of it, I think it really comes with reps. So Garcia's guy has got a knack for the ball. And when you get 4 offensive rebounds a game, if you're not tapping it out or kicking it out, you're going to have an open look. So, yeah, he's been more aggressive. He's getting a lot of those at second chance points. I think A&M in total, I think I said this earlier, had 27 second chance points against LSU. That's just a monster number. And by the way, your first shot field goal percentage is horrendous in this scenario, but the second shot field goal percentage jumps through the roof. You're making guys defend for another 25 seconds or whatever it might be, depending when the shot goes up. They're tired. The effort drops off a little bit when they give up that offensive rebound. And Garcia's, to your observation's right. He's become a nice complementary piece to the scoring of those two guys on the outside.
So I used this term earlier. It's a real opportunity for A&M, a big week. Mizzou and Ole Miss, Tom, considering that and where they started and how things looked, they can really make up a lot of ground this week.
They can. Those are must-win games for A&M. And you look at it two different ways. It's not just maneuvering the conference standings, but it's getting your resume in a place to get the respect of the NCAA and be an at-large team. The SEC is loaded this year, and I think I was just going through the schedule. Tennessee's got Kentucky twice. Kentucky obviously has Tennessee twice. Their first matchup is in a couple of weeks. Auburn and Alabama play twice. They meet Wednesday night. There are some heavy-duty, high-profile games coming up. College Game Day is going to be in Fayetteville on Saturday when Kentucky goes there. And you might scoff and say, gosh, why are they going to Arkansas? That team is not playing well. That's a team that looks like it's got bad makeup and roster concern issues. Well, the fact is they beat Duke at home earlier this season in one of the best home court environments we've seen all year. And they're going to show up and make that a tough game for Kentucky. I say all that to say there's going to be a lot of movement in the top half of this league. And some of those teams that were sitting there with one loss that were right in the mix of things, they're probably going to come back down to earth a little bit, return to the mean. LSU is obviously starting to come back. South Carolina, I'm not quite sure who they are. I mean, we know who they are, but I don't know if they can keep it up. And they've got Kentucky tomorrow night. So there's room. There's room for A&M to get up there. Missouri's been struggling. Ole Miss is, I don't want to call them a paper tiger, but they put together a great non-conference record. They're a good shooting team. They're missing some other pieces. And obviously that's an opportunity, to your point, I think is a fair way to put it.
Tom, I want to switch to football for a minute. And how hard is it for a guy in your role and all the analysts around the country to evaluate football teams in January heading into the next season, considering you may add a lot of talent. That talent may not work. There's so much change. I don't know what to think of this team, that team. unless they're bringing back the bulk of their players with all these changes, I don't know how to evaluate.
It's a fool's errand, David. It's like, listen, I grew up in the Midwest. It'd be like shoveling your driveway in the middle of a snowstorm. Just wait for everything to settle, all the snow to come down, figure out where you stand after that. Alabama's a great example, right? I mean, if you judge Alabama right now, you would say based on the talent that they lost, the change of leadership, all of the other adjustments going on in that program, that's a middle of the pack SEC roster. And it probably is as of today. And middle of the pack meaning bottom of the great teams. Well, what's going to happen after spring practice?
Right.
I mean, they're going to continue to get guys to the portal right now. And then as soon as the second portal window opens, there's going to be some real dudes. They're going to backfill those empty spots. I think the difference now, especially Alabama's feeling it, Georgia's actually felt it relative to their success, is what everybody else has had to go through. Remember, Alabama over the last couple of years took Georgia Tech starting running back, Tennessee starting middle linebacker. You know, they just were able to pick and choose from other big name programs, Power 5 programs, and now it's being done to them. It's a little unfamiliar and I'm sure uncomfortable for that Alabama fan base. But don't even try right now. It's like judging a big league team based on spring training when every starting pitcher is just going out there working on their changeup. You know, as long as everybody's healthy, wait and see what the roster looks like once we get in and out of spring, and that'll give us a better feel.
Well, then I do want to ask you a follow-up, though, because Ohio State, to me, already was in pretty good position considering what's happening with Michigan and a lot of players moving on. But here's my but. Maybe a little A&M situation going here. Like, you bring on that much talent, so many egos, like, unless they've kind of been in the program already, it does get a little dicey.
Well, I'm really fascinated that you brought up Ohio State, because the direction I would go in terms of a major question mark is what value, and I really like the guy, but you've had a lot of experience with him as well. What value does Bill O'Brien bring to the program when you already had a great offensive mind and play caller in Ryan Day above him? What do you think that move is all about?
I don't understand it. I really don't. Look, I think OB, I call him OB. That's what they called him in the Texans facility. I think Bill O'Brien is a really gifted offensive mind. I do. And he does bring a lot of great traits out of his players and quarterbacks. I think he is an awful play caller and an awful general manager. So if it's kind of like the Bobby Petrino situation at A&M this past year, right, where he's taking his cues from Ryan Day, it can work. I just don't see O'Brien that kind of guy. It worked with Alabama somewhat. I mean, Bryce Young did win a Heisman Trophy because Nick Saban is a defensive guy. I think that's a weird dynamic to have an offensive guy with another offensive guy.
I couldn't agree more. And even when he was at Alabama, there were some frustrations with what he was allowed to do in terms of how he wanted to expand his playbook. I mean, they had some QB run situations and plays that they, had in for Deshaun Watson. And he's like, listen, I got some stuff that works in my back pocket, but the head coach doesn't want me to implement that. He wants me to stick to the playbook that's already in place. And he was very limited in terms of what he could add and how he could manipulate the playbook that he inherited. I would think that would be a challenge with those strong personalities in the same room in Columbus. And probably if you wanted to take a step further and say, hey, lay down on the couch, let's talk about your feelings, probably an indicator of the stress that's on Day and the pressure to win after their rivals won a national title.
Yeah, but they're in a really good spot considering, right? The Big Ten has some new pieces coming in. I don't know if those pieces are ready. Washington's going to be a different team. USC's got a lot of question marks. Michigan's got question marks considering the guys leaving. So they're already in a pretty good spot with everything happening around them.
The Michigan thing is fascinating because the reports are that Harbaugh has continued his negotiations with the AD at Michigan, and he has said, hey, listen, if I return and we change his contract a little bit, I want words in there that I can't be held responsible for any investigations on things that have already happened. I mean, you can't just grab diplomatic immunity for a lifetime. I mean, that's not how this thing is supposed to work. And if Michigan does that and they allow that to happen, and then he gets a show cause penalty and he can't coach, they're paying a dude not to coach. That's fascinating to me. And I heard Troy Aikman talking about him like, oh, we'd love to have this guy in the NFL. That would be a major, if that's a thing from an NFL, you're more familiar with the timeline than I am, but those hirings are happening right now, right? Yep. And everything will probably be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. Is that fair at the latest?
100. Yep.
Pull a guy out, head coach at Michigan right now, that we thought Saban was a big domino. I think the timing of Saban's domino falling and the ability of programs like Texas and Oregon to say, no, we've got the money. You've got a good thing going. Stay here. Don't go to Tuscaloosa, to their coaches. Kept the damage contained, relatively speaking. I think that Harbaugh domino falls. I think it's going to kick a ton of dominoes throughout the entire country, mainly because of the timing of it.
I don't wish anybody get fired. I don't. It feels like Billy Napier has been a dead man walking for a while. Like that schedule, the success he has not had, and now this NCAA investigation into the Jaden Rashada deal, it just feels like that's a lot to overcome in 1 year, because I think he's got basically part of a year.
I don't know all the details on the Rashada situation. I'm not sure anybody outside of Gainesville really does. Well, I guess Rashada and his family do. But that's really, I think we've entered a new era, right? Like, what are Billy Napier's responsibilities when the collective is making promises on the program's behalf or the head coach's behalf? And how can you prove what he knew or didn't know about it? And I understand the NCAA rule that, the head coach is responsible for everything that happens within his building. But that very much seems like a collective failure in many ways. Now, we've already seen what can happen if you force a guy there and you promise him things. The NCAA is dropping the hammer on some of these programs. But I think that would be unfortunate for Napier. I think his concern is, outside of Rashada, like, are we building this program and getting enough talent in here to be competitive in the SEC? And I think they've had too many misses to this point. But man, you can't, that's a program that had continuity and great structure for decades, and they've missed out on that. I don't know if starting over again is the answer for them.
How many games do you have this week?
I only have 4 this week. So tomorrow I've got Kentucky at Georgia. Wednesday, LSU. No, I'm sorry, Kentucky, South Carolina tomorrow. Wednesday, LSU at Georgia. Saturday, Alabama against somebody. Is it A&M? Is A&M at Alabama? No, A&M's not at Alabama. Alabama, LSU. I got LSU again. I'm on the LSU letter jacket train. And then Sunday afternoon, while the Chiefs are playing, I'll be second screening maybe. And I've got Memphis at UAB, which will be a lot of fun, seeing my buddy Andy Kennedy and seeing Penny's team up close.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Enjoy Mom's cooking.
I will, my friend. Thank you.
See you, bud.
See you, man. I'm Hart there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We'll come back with Around Aggieland. I believe Kay Naegeli will be in studio for that. And we'll get to your text messages and your phone calls at 979-693-1150. Right now, we're talking QC Kinetics. You can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from that awful joint pain in 2024. Guys, we're 22 days into it. Like, don't waste any more time. You need to call them up. If you've got any kind of joint issue or pain in your knees or your shoulders, call QC Kinetics. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, and they'll take care of you. Non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue, and QC Kinetics can make that happen with no drugs, I should say. I want to make sure I said that. I said medicine earlier. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain treatments has arrived, and QC Kinetics has tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over the United States, people with back pain and hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or injury. It's not a Band-Aid. They don't want it just to take care of the issue for a little bit. They want it to take care of the issue long-term, revolutionary treatment to get you back to moving once again. You get your life back, and you're going to feel so much better, and it's non-surgical. jump all over it, fight against that pain right now, and take that first step by getting a free consultation on the calendar as we speak. The phone number, very easy, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. Welcome back in TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio of my parents' house in Houston, Texas. Appreciate everybody listening in today, and hopefully you're staying dry out there. Let's do a little Around Aggieland because we got some stuff to get into, ladies and gentlemen, presented by Norman G. State Bank. Norman G. State Bank, rock solid banking. The website, normangstatebank.com. And with that, we go to Kay Naegeli.
Are you holding down H-Town out there, David?
H-Town represent one time. That's right. I'm actually currently in Sugar Land, Texas, but yes.
The grand scheme of H-Town, we'll put it that way. All right, let's get right into it because we have a bunch going on. So first, I want to start with some Ags in the NFL, just off of a fun NFL weekend that was. For our remaining, Justin Madubuike on the Ravens. He's been having a heck of a season. And then as well, I know a lot of Aggie fans are now Lion fans as they are rooting for Josh Reynolds, Aaron Glenn, and our very own Dan Campbell. I mean, they've had a heck of a run already. I know a lot of Aggies are excited to see. Hopefully, they can have a little bit more of a run. Only got 2 more wins to go. That would be super exciting to see. Also on the football front, Mike Elko has put the finishing touches on his staff, hiring Kansas defensive back coach Jordan Peterson. He is a native of Lexington, Texas, and also a Texas A&M product. He began his coaching career actually as a graduate assistant in Aggieland in 2010. He worked under former Aggie DC Tim DeRuyter at Fresno State, and then was on Lance Leopold's Kansas staff, serving there for 4 seasons. He was also a co-defensive coordinator last fall. So great addition there, and we are happy to have him back in Aggieland. Moving on to the basketball front, despite another anxiety-inducing start, Texas A&M men's basketball was able to enable a rally to take control late and split the series against LSU with a 73-69 victory on Saturday. Wade Taylor, of course, was back to his normal Wade Taylor ways. He scored all of his 19 points in the second half, while 3 other Aggies also chipped in for double figures. They have a big week. It will be Mizzou at home on Tuesday, and then also Ole Miss at home on Saturday. So make sure to get to Reed Arena if you can. It's going to be the Aggies. Aggies need some support. Hopefully they can keep getting those wins and stringing them along. Unfortunately, top-ranked South Carolina did roll into Aggieland yesterday, and women's basketball fell 99-64. That was yesterday. That was also their first home loss of the season. They had 11 home wins. That was just an unfortunate event. They proved to be the number 1 team, I will say that. With the loss, the Aggies fall to 2-3 in conference play, but they have a chance to rebound on Thursday against Mizzou. A&M Track and Field had another meet at the R.A. Murray Faskin Indoor Track and Field facility. We mentioned it earlier. Eric Casares shines as always. But A&M actually claimed 7 titles at the Ted Nelson Invitational. And then finally, so we have some women's and men's tennis going on. Both teams caught W's. Women's tennis beat ACU 7-1. And then the men's team beat Harvard. How about that? How about that as an opponent?
I like that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Smart guys.
I didn't know that Harvard was someone that we scheduled as an opponent, but I like beating the Ivy League squads.
Heck yeah, because we're kind of Ivy League. I mean,
the Ivy League
top
of the
university
South.
in the country, so why not?
Ivy League of the South is what we call it.
Yeah, Ivy League of the South. Is that okay?
That's all for me.
Thank you so much for this. Appreciate you.
Of course.
Hey, Nick, I got a question for you. I don't think this is a Nuñoism, okay? But follow me on this and tell me if it is, all right?
Okay. Kay's going to be involved too because she just kind of has to hang out in there.
Involved. Be there. And Dawson, you can jump in as well. So I am not totally convinced A&M's basketball is back, but back enough to be what they've been the last couple of years. So let me see if I can give it a little bit more clarity. When the season started, I think we all had these huge expectations of maybe they can knock on the door of the Elite Eight, a Sweet 16 kind of team. While that still is certainly possible, my mind isn't going there yet. What my mind is going to is, all right, they're not as graduated to that as I expected and wanted them to be, but they are still going to be a very difficult team to beat in the SEC, especially when they figure out the things that they're starting to get, right? They're starting to understand who they are. So there's going to be some offensive struggles throughout the year, but I still think they can be that 8 or 9 seed team that we have seen in the past. Where it hurts is I expected more, right? I want to see much more, and maybe they will get to more, but I think I'm not worried about them not making the tournament. I'm not like, there was a point that I think we all had that like, hey, we got to wait and see. And look, they still got to turn it on. So I guess my full circle way of saying it is, and Nick, you start us off, is that, look, I'm back in. I'm just not as far down the road as I thought I'd be at this point, Nick.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But like you said, you don't really have to worry about the resumes. I'm putting up a graphic right now. I mean, their strength of schedule overall in the country, second right now. They're 39th in the net, 38th in the Ken Palm. Quad 1 and 2 record combined, not what you like to see, 5 and 6. So teetering there. But, I mean, you're right. Don't need to worry about, making the tournament because I think they're going to do that just fine. But, yeah, like you said, we wouldn't have expected a 2-3 start to SEC play. I think that's fair to say. But not far off from going on a run, and everyone's right back in there, and they're right back on pace. And they got 3 home games coming up to do just that. A Missouri team that's down, you got to win that one. Everything's a must win, but got to beat the bottom feeders when they come to your place is what I'm getting at. So not too far from getting everyone right back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. That the second strength of schedule really stands out to me just because the SEC is, it's so on the ups. Pretty much every team you're facing normally in the SEC wouldn't always be such a challenge, but I think this year it's really grown. And yeah, the Aggies are going to have to, they can catch fire though, like they have the past couple of years, and I think they'll be just fine.
Mr. Dawson, you got something for us there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center?
Yes, sir. I think as frustrating as it's been at times for us to watch our offense, do its thing, I just brings a smile to my face. I can only imagine what being an LSU fan the other day was like when you're up and Wade Taylor's not played the entire first half and you're just watching A&M just dominate on the boards. It's second chance point after second chance point, offensive rebound after offensive rebound. I think it's going to be like a team that people are not going to enjoy playing against us. And, that might carry late in the season. When we're more physical than other teams and people are battered down after playing 30, 35 games. Let's keep winning some games and let's get to the postseason. I'm excited.
Yep, good stuff there. Thank you all. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, a man who travels with the Aggie basketball team, he knows better than we do how close the margins are. We'll talk to him about that and much, much more. That is Andrew Monaco, the voice of Texas A&M Athletics. But before we do that, let's hit a break and talk a little Brian Foley Law. He's a criminal defense and DWI lawyer from Brian Foley Law, and he's an Aggie. So, you trust Aggies. He's the one to trust right now. Longtime listener and subscriber of TexAgs. He is a board-certified lawyer, and only 7% of attorneys in Texas are that kind of qualified. He's criminal defense and DWI lawyer. And look, we all make mistakes. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. Kids make mistakes. So if you've been in a situation where potentially you've been arrested for DWI, vape pen, or just at the wrong place at the wrong time, let Brian Foley represent you. Former chief prosecutor that knows the system inside and out. The fact that he's done it on both sides means he knows exactly where the law is and how to get you out of a bad situation. Good people have a bad day. The next day, call Brian Foley Law to help you get your life back. It is Brian Foley Law. They cover Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and as well as Bryan College Station. The phone number for Brian Foley Law, 936-596-0407. Again, 936-596-0407. Remember, he'll answer that with a personal touch. Or check out the website, brianfoleylaw.com. That is brianfoleylaw.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. My buddy, I've missed him. I mean, I haven't seen him up close. We haven't talked in the studio in a minute. And of course, the day he can do the show is the day that I'm out of town. It doesn't matter. We go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We're joined by the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco. What's up, Andrew?
Howdy, my friend. Happy New Year to you. I know it's a little bit late. I know there's a certain date where you can't say it any longer. I haven't seen you, and I got to wish you a Happy New Year. Great 2024
I appreciate your friendship and your time on the show, and also your analysis when it comes to the basketball team, or all teams that you cover. Let's start things off, because I'm going to do something that I hate doing, and I've done this with you before. I'm going to start it off. I'm going to tell you what I think, and then I want you to tell me what you think, all right?
This is where Andrew says, David, you're absolutely right. Right?
Or wrong. You can tell me. So, as I'm trying to figure out this basketball team, I think we all know who they are, right? And they are embracing who they are. They're just a hard-nosed team that they have to win in the areas that aren't pretty, and they've done that for a couple of years. And while I had these expectations of them to take it up a notch, maybe offensively, we're not there. That's okay, because they live here usually, and they're trained for these moments, Andrew. And that's kind of where I think we are with this basketball team.
I agree with you, David. And I'm not saying that just because I joked with it about a minute ago. You're absolutely right. I think that's part of the DNA, David. And I think when you go into a game and you see a scouting report for the opposition that says, boy, this Texas A&M team, they're a great offensive rebounding team. I think teams go, yeah, and then realize it's non-stop the way they attack the glass. It's not just Anderson Garcia. It's not just Henry Coleman III. It's everybody attacks that glass. That is it. Offensive rebounds, get to the free throw line. It's not sexy, but it can be effective when they do it. And as I say, they don't think twice about all those little things that, a lot of people say they don't show up in the box score, but they show up in the win column when you do that. Now, can you do it for 40 minutes? That's the consistency. Can you, and by getting those offensive rebounds, does that then get you the easier shots? Does that help the field goal percentage? But I'm with you. I think that's part of the identity. I'm also of the belief that I don't think any team is set. The identity emerges, or part of it does now, and then it continues throughout February and March and into the postseason. But I'm with you. I think that, along with this team able to adapt and not use an excuse. They've played without Boots. They've played without Henry. They've played without Solo at times. And just this past week, you have Arkansas. Henry's not going to play. Okay, can't get in foul trouble. Well, they do. And then I thought it was a masterful job by this coaching staff to mix and match throughout that first and second half in that game. And that's why when you don't have Henry playing the entire game against LSU, they're able to adapt. Oh, Wade's got 2 fouls. You don't plan for that. He's only going to play 4 or 5 minutes in the first half, and to only be down 2. See, I don't think there's an excuse here. They easily could say, well, Wade got 2 fouls. We're not in this game at LSU. I think because they've done it before in the absence of some players and learned some of those new roles, I think they're able to adapt over the course of the game. Now, can you get everybody back, everybody healthy, and then you see more of that identity emerge?
Talking to Andrew Monaco here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So here's Captain Obvious. When Boots gets going, A&M is very hard to beat. And as obvious as that is, because he's been in and out of the lineup, because he's been struggling to find his rhythm, when he just shows up a little bit, again, that just takes so much pressure off of Wade.
Yeah, because teams are going to blitz Wade, and then when he gives the ball up, they don't want him to get it back. So who's that second ball handler? Doesn't have to be a point guard per se. Who's that person who can initiate that offense or run that offense and off the ball? That is Boots Radford. And you've seen Buzz Williams and this staff do that in the past. Last year in Auburn, Auburn was prepared to blitz 4 all game. And then all of a sudden, 23's bringing the ball up the floor, and Auburn kind of had to figure that out. There's the maturity of Boots Radford that I don't think you can measure. There in all facets of the game. We've known that he's been a great rebounder. Not going to say rebounding guard any longer or rebounder under 6'2". He's just a great rebounder. But late shot clock, he is elite. While everybody else's stomach is churning, saying the shot clock's winding out, it's just calm, and he gets to the spot he wants. It used to be he would get to that left block and lay it in. Now he's got the little pull-up. I don't know how you defend him now, late shot clock. I think it makes him even more dangerous. But I think he's also, even when he was out, he's another coach on that bench with the rest of this team. I think his influence, and ultimately, because we're going to get to the point of the legacy, is what these younger guys will learn, not just watching Boots Radford, but being able to play with Boots Radford. I think his presence and the way he plays, I'm with you, is immeasurable. And that's why the Aggies could win in Baton Rouge on Saturday. His play, I thought, was great. Near double-double, but so many other plays. The other thing, David, is John Thornton always says this to me. When you have to think twice about offensive rebounding, think twice about diving on the floor, things like that, it's too late. That's why I say it's in this DNA. Boots has an awful lot of that.
And how about the emergence of Jace Carter in the lineup the other day that started off? I feel like each game he's getting more comfortable in multiple ways, not just scoring the basketball, but running the floor, doing some of the tough defensive assignments that we need from that wing position.
There's a toughness to him that I'm not sure we saw early, but you see now, especially in SEC play, and he seems to be more comfortable. Also, great person coming off the bench, what he does. But then in the absence of Boots Radford, when Boots was out for most of December, now here's the starting minutes, which may have been a little more comfortable. That's what he was doing at UIC. And then on Saturday, you go with the 3-guard lineup, if you will, of Wade, Boots, and Jace. And you can just see he gets that early shot to fall. Wade's on the bench, a little bit of a scoring responsibility, hits the shots. I thought in Arkansas there was a toughness for him on the boards. You can just see him getting more and more comfortable. I don't know if he's going to get mad at me for telling you this story, but he got cut, if you remember, on Tuesday at Arkansas, and John and I are saying, man, that looks like that hurts. That looks like he hurts. He goes, but I'm still a good-looking guy. So, really, you got to have the priorities.
Love that. Hey, I was listening to Buzz on the postgame show with you, and he's doing this mathematical equation about the margins. And even though I got lost at times, I totally understood what he meant. The way sports has evolved, but really the way Buzz can use these analytics and explain it to a T to his team so they understand, hey, if we do this, this is how it plays out. And if this happens, we need to do this to overcome that.
It's the why, David. Why? Because when a player says, why are we doing this, Buzz? Here's why. Here's how the numbers are. And I think that's part of the analytics. Points per possession, the difference in that game on Saturday was 0.01. That's how the Aggies win by 4 after 40 minutes. He said before the game that we all know that a turkey is 3 consecutive stops for A&M. He broke down the percentages that in a game, if you get 4 turkeys, you have this percentage of winning. But when you get 5, that percentage raises to this. In 6, you win almost every game. 7 or more, it's almost a guaranteed win. So now it gives you an idea that this is why we're connected on the defensive end, if we can do that. Dave, those are not only just measurable, but that's now your team saying, well, that's 1 turkey. We already got that. Those little things, those games within the games. You hear coaches say, okay, we've got to win this segment, right? Media timeout to media timeout. That's measurable. Instead of worrying about all 40 minutes, let's worry about the next 4 minutes. Let's do that. I think it's the same thing. How many turkeys did we get in this one? I think Buzz said the over and under was going to be 6.5 on Saturday, and they were close to that. But that points per possession, the way he does that, I think it's the why. David, the days of throwing a scouting report at a player are over and saying, learn it by shoot around at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's over. And Buzz and this staff weaves video, stories, walking through, actually going through a play, seeing it on your phone, write it down, this and that. Very much 21st century. But I'm really into the here's why. And when an athlete understands the why, I think he's able to do his job. He or she is able to do his or her job more effectively.
Andrew, let's turn our attention to football for a moment. The Mike Elko era, I don't know if we've gotten to talk about it, but just I know what it looks like from where we sit.
Yeah.
You're in the building often. You walk around, you see just what are some of the vibes that you are getting and some of the changes maybe that you can notice right away?
He's hardly there. He wasn't. You talk about hitting the ground running. I'm not sure that's even appropriate for what he has done since after the Texas Bowl, but even before that. So on December 28th, he took over, right? It's whenever that building opened, he would be there. But I think the relationship, the reaching out early to your own team, making sure that everyone stays. Because look, in this day and age, you've got to recruit your own 85 every single day. This isn't a signing period. This isn't an early signing period. It has to be every day. And I think his familiarity, David, really helps with that. To be able to walk into that room and know most of those players, I think helps. So now what do you do next? To the transfer portal, keeping guys as well as guys leaving. It's two-way, but that's two jobs there. Reaching out to the Texas High School Coaches Association to make sure that you have that relationship, not just for the early signing period that was in December, not just for February's signing day, but that relationship will continue throughout. You win the state of Texas, right? You have to do that. This isn't just a Texas program. This is a national program. So you have to reach out across the country and find the best talent. What he and the staff have done in the transfer portal, you have to address what are you deficient in your program. And they have done that. Now, we're going to see throughout spring camp, we're going to see now with these guys, it's one thing to get the commitment. It's another to get them on campus, right? So that's another move. But he seems to have knocked out. There's each of these mileposts, mile signs, whatever you want to call them, that this has to be done now, and you have to also look in the future. But this has to be done now. It's not myopic. There's still a bigger picture. But I think he's been able to do that, do it methodically, do it well, and understand from staff to players to having the setup. And then the excitement now is, I'm not sure they can wait patiently for spring ball to put it all into action. So here, and I believe July are the two times you hear from coaches saying, this is what you do on your own. Now you have to lift. Now you have to be prepared. You can't, day one of camp isn't when you start in the spring. You have to be ready for that. David, I'm not going to lie. I love the competition at every single position. I think that's just going to elevate everyone else. But there's an awful lot of excitement under Mike Elko, who I think is the right guy.
All right, let's close on this. Quarterback room. We see a lot of potential. We see a lot of talent, and I've loved everything I've seen from some of those guys, right? Connor especially. Lack of experience there, but the potential, and I know they had potential last year, but the potential to be, if not, one of the best in the SEC in the entire country of quarterback rooms.
Can we use just one for one season? Can we try that? Because the last 2 years, we haven't done it, which speaks to the depth of that room, which speaks, David, I think some fans think, man, that's all they do. They just snipe at one another, and Connor's not any good. I should be the starter. Max telling Jalen, no, you're not getting that throw. I'm getting, no, that's not that way at all. And that's why I think you're able to have Marcel Reed be prepared for Texas ball. You have no idea after one play if you're coming in. But back to a former coach who used to say, you're one play away, right? You're one play away. That speaks to the depth. That speaks to being prepared to the student athlete. But let's try to go through a season with Connor Wigman, shall we? And you're right. What I feel bad about him, and he still has to learn, is getting injured against Auburn. He did not get the opportunity to play against Alabama and Kyle Field. He did not get the opportunity to go to an absolute true road game last year in Tennessee and experience all that. And for me, with Connor Wigman and his confidence, I'm a big believer in that when the student athlete says, I belong, that's what I think Connor Wigman has. I belong on this stage, right? This is my team. That's the other thing. I think these players absolutely play for him. I think having Jalen Henderson's success, and you saw the joy for one another, and you saw what they did in Houston for Marcel Reed. They are ready. I would just love to see one quarterback instead of 3 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks like we had last year. And I think that will do wonders for Texas A&M. But that experience, we're going to have to gain it on the fly, because that first game is not against Directional School University. It's against Notre Dame. But Connor Wigman's going to be ready. I've told you, he's got it. I can't often define it, but Connor Wigman has it.
He's got it, and I'm excited about his work with Colin Klein as well, Andrew. It's going to be fun to watch those guys work. Hey, thank you for your time, my friend. We'll do it soon, all right?
Pleasure, David. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, sir. Andrew Monaco, the voice of the Aggies here on TexAgs Radio. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll do a short segment coming back. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. They make documentary films about families. You know, I told you all that my father is in the hospital, and a couple of years back, we got to do a awesome Heritage film with Chance and basically tell my dad's story, right? He escaped Cuba, his time here in the United States, meeting my mother, going from being a dishwasher to an engineer. The guy is amazing. He's beat COVID. He's beat, you know, this fall, he's going to beat it. He's beat communism. He's done it all. And we got to tell his story. So my kids get to really see the passion and the story that my dad lived, because it's no longer the game of telephone. When I tell the story, it's like I've missed out these details. My dad tells that story on this video, and he can do that for you. They can do family businesses, family ranches, you name it. Chance McClain is the one to get it done. He also does a Year Flicks, which is a 20-minute video Q&A form benchmark for the little kids in your family. They don't have to be little. They can be a freshman in college. Tell the story. Freshman year, it's a sophomore year, it's a junior year, having a 4-chapter story. He does it all. It is Heritage Films, the website, yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studios. Super short segment here, I believe. Nick, we've probably got, what, 45 seconds left, if that?
Not even. We got to go.
We got to go. So guess what? Full hour coming up next on TexAgs. Two. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Got a very polite text. Matthew Dawson, would you like to read the 912 text message? Good times, Matthew. Appreciate you. I'll read it. There, it says, 912, Nuño sounds like he's broadcasting from the can this morning. Did he get banished to the bathroom? Nick, should I tell this young texter what the situation is?
No, well, yeah, if you want to make him feel pretty bad.
No, I don't want to make him feel bad. Like, if we need to fix the audio, we can fix that. I don't know why it's a can situation. But no, my dad's in the hospital, so I'm broadcasting from my parents' home this morning, 912. So no, Logan, I not in the bathroom. In fact, I would never do the show from the bathroom. I don't take my phone in the bathroom often. I don't take my drinks in the bathroom. So I'll leave it at that. I do want to say this. Look, Buzz will be calling here in about probably 3 or 4 minutes. The basketball team, we were so critical, and it was deserving, right? Because we had reached a point when it comes to this team of it better happen now, right? This is the third year of the nucleus, the main nucleus of Boots and Wade and Henry all playing together. This is the year. Last year they got sold a bad spot there in the NCAA tournament, and so we kind of looked at this year as a certain pathway, like it was our right for A&M to be one of the better teams in the country, and there is still a chance for them to work themselves back to that, but do not understate or undervalue the victory at Baton Rouge. Not only is it the first time they've won in back-to-back years in Baton Rouge in program history, but LSU seems to be one of these teams that's on the rise, and you expect them to. Even though they were bad last year and the expectation would be they'd be bad this year, they've got some talent there. They've got some scorers out there. And while A&M has tried to figure out their identity that was always there, right? It's kind of like what Andrew Monaco spoke about a moment ago. It's in their DNA. And sometimes you just got to be reminded that's who you are. And look, they're not a offensively gifted team, although they can score. They are a defensively gifted team. They are a hustle points gifted kind of team, right? And when you can even the playing field, right? When you can have your shots or your shooting percentage be similar or slightly below the other team with the way they offensive rebound, you're going to win some games. You're going to win a lot of games. When your defense comes to play the way we've seen their defense come to play at the end of games, right? Outside of the last play against Arkansas, the way that defense played against Kentucky, the way that defense played against LSU in the closing minute, and the fact that Wade Taylor wasn't on the floor for a big part of the first half, and they were able to keep it in. They were in striking range, right? To me, that just tells you this is the point of the season that we're going to look back at it, hopefully be like, oh, this is where it all clicked. I don't expect to have a team that shoots 40% from threes. I think they take a lot of threes sometimes, maybe a little too many for my liking. But the way, if they can even the other parts of the game, right? And they certainly have done that. And they can out hustle you and get to the ball the way that they've done so efficiently this year. That's why they're going to keep rising. They figured out who they are. They're playing to that level. And let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law hotline to talk to their head coach, Buzz Williams, joining us here on TexAgs Radio. Buzz, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. Let's talk a little bit about what I'm seeing from the team, and just for you to follow it up. I believe you all have always known your DNA, but there's certain points of a season where it all kind of starts to click again. Like, this is who we are. This is what we do, and we're going to do it better than we've done all year long. Is that kind of what you're seeing since SEC play has started?
I did not think that we were that the first 40 minutes that we played LSU. I think LSU was our 14th game. And I would say in the first 13 games, there was a lot of signs of us knowing who we were, playing to what we want to be about. I did not think in SEC game number 1 we were that at all from start to finish. Very disappointed on a lot of different levels, because I don't think in any of the categories that are important to us that we met that level, not even close. And it was the first time in, I don't know, I guess it had been 18 or 19 months since we had lost a home game in the SEC. And I did not think that we started the game at Arkansas the same way. We started at LSU Saturday down 10-2. I think it was 10-2 against Kentucky. I'm not talking about the score. I'm talking about the vibe. I'm talking about the intangibles, the things that are important to us. The first 10 minutes against Arkansas and the 40 minutes against LSU, those 50 minutes, we were not good enough. The result wasn't any good either, but the things that are important to us, we weren't. I do think the 40 minutes at Auburn, regardless of result, the 45 minutes against Kentucky, and the 40 minutes on Saturday, yes, sir, I agree with those things. And we don't need to be talking about those things in the middle of January. And in truth, it's the first time we've talked about those things since year number one. I don't completely count year number two because it was COVID and nothing was normal. No locker room, no hangout in the office. None of that was going on. But year number three, despite an 8-game losing streak, there was never any wonder who we're supposed to be. And I don't think there was last year in the season either. And so I think we've got to stay true to that as best we can and avoid any other distraction or noise and stay focused on that. And that's what we've been trying to do in truth since we played LSU the first time.
Buzz, back-to-back wins at LSU for the first time. And also, I just feel like your teams are always very good defensively, but you've been, especially at the end of the Kentucky game and the end of this LSU game, the defense has certainly been on point at the end of games.
We have done we've done a really good job defensively. I think the one thing that I would say that has helped us defensively this season thus far in conference play is we have defensive rebounded the ball better than we have since we moved here. We defensive rebounded 90% of Arkansas's misses on Tuesday, and we defensive rebounded 83% of LSU's misses on Saturday. We are good on the offensive glass, and I like some of the things that we're doing defensively before the shot goes up. And I think we're improving in some of those ways. But when you can finish the possession with a defensive rebound, it just makes everything look better. And that's why in the categories that matter defensively, we're rising. It's not because we're doing anything different before the shot goes up. It's we're finishing the possession with a rebound. And so that's for sure helped us. And we've got to continue along that track.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Buzz, another thing that I found interesting as well is that even without Wade and Henry out there for big chunks of time, the team was able to get it done. And those are like two of your team leaders.
A few things. Number one, I didn't know that Texas A&M had never won consecutive years at LSU. Does that mean since Texas A&M joined the SEC, is that what that means?
I believe that's what it means. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the second thing is I love David Gardner. I've only seen him twice, so I don't know what that means that he sponsors the show, but thank you. And then the next thing is Liucci leaving Detroit and going straight to San Francisco, or is he going to stop through in College Station?
My understanding is he may even stop by studio tomorrow, but he is definitely traveling back today.
Well, then that means that Coach Campbell and him aren't very close, because if Liucci is the Liucci I know, and that's his boy, he would be on the team plane going to San Francisco. That means he's flying commercially out of Austin. Then the fourth thing is, in honor of Four, I think it's the least number of minutes Four's played since he was a freshman. And I was telling him this morning when we were shooting, as a head coach, I do not like playing without Four on the floor. I know that's not good for recruiting, and some of our guys have to absorb that. I want Four to play, and not just because of his prowess offensively. I have more peace when Four's on the floor, regardless of whose ball it is. But in some ways, I thought the stress of him not playing those minutes in the first half was good for our team. We played without Henry. We played without Boots. We played all year without Jude. We played without Show. That's the first time we played without Four. And we had to play consecutive possessions. Mo hit a big shot. Andy hit 2 big threes. I thought Jace had the game of his life at this level. I thought he was good in that stretch when Four was out. And then I thought a lot of our numbers were better, not just scoring, but rebounding-wise, when Four came back in the second half, because he kind of connects. He's the conduit in many respects. And then the fifth thing is we really missed Henry at Arkansas, And I know he's our second leading scorer and second leading rebounder prior to the injury. But Eddie's done a great job, and Henry is the most conscientious student athlete I've ever coached. And if you've ever heard him speak or spent time with him, that's easy to figure out. He's literally lived in the training room with Eddie. He could not go at all on Tuesday. And he practiced maybe 10 possessions on Friday before we left. And we ended up having shoot-around Saturday morning in the ballroom. And I was telling the team, and I was telling Henry, can he play 10 possessions today in the game the way he practiced 10 possessions yesterday? Because it's such a thin margin, no matter who we play or where we play. And it's not specific to Henry. I think the same thing happened with Solo a little bit in the 2 games that he was out. The same thing happened in the 5 games Boots missed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a core guy, it doesn't mean you got to be your best, and it doesn't mean you got to play your averages. But when we lose one, it hurts. And like I was telling Henry yesterday when we were doing 2-day, I mean, his injury is not good. And his toughness and willingness to put on a uniform and give us 10 minutes, you could argue, as good as a lot of those things happened at LSU, Henry's the reason why we won. Because the 10 minutes he plays, it just gives us some maneuverability, whether it's Wildens, whether it's Andy, whether it's Solo. I think we played big, what we call big, which is not big, it's like normal. But we played big, I think, 4 of the 10 minutes Henry was in. And those 10 minutes he played, I know statistically he didn't provide his normal, but I think it was the swing vote in us winning, to be honest.
Talking to Buzz Williams here on TexAgs Radio. Buzz, can we talk a little bit about the way your team receives your message and they apply it? Because it's one thing to coach it, but they certainly receive your instructions, your philosophy, and then they go apply it, and you're actually watching it happen year after year in real time.
Thanks for saying that. As a coach, that's what I admire the most about other coaches. It doesn't happen very often. Normally there's about a 90-minute gap, David, on our day off. We got home from Arkansas at about 4 a.m. Wednesday morning, and I have a 90-minute gap. So I'll have a 90-minute gap this Wednesday where I don't have anything planned and I don't have to do any work. And that 90 minutes I had off last Wednesday, I spent with Coach Slocum. And Coach Slocum mentioned something along the same lines as you did. He just says it. He said it as a coach. And I pray that I don't ever say anything arrogant or have any sense of ego. But the one thing that I would say in 2024, that's really hard to do because everyone is completely overwhelmed with information and completely overwhelmed with choices of how to spend their time, how to spend their brain space, how to spend their emotions. And I think it speaks to the character of our staff. There's 93 years of experience with me wherever we've lived. I think that's a critical component of this. And then I think it speaks to the parents of the young men on our team. I don't think that I'm near as rambunctious as I once was 10 or 15 years ago. I think I've adapted. I think I've tried to adjust. But there are certain things that I'm not willing to sacrifice regardless of what the model of college athletics is. And to the point, and I've had this conversation with my own children and my own wife, I can't give up on the things that I believe impact their life for the rest of their life. And if that means at some point, because of how things have changed, I can't stay employed as a college basketball coach, I'm completely at peace with that. But I think that in this group, there's a lot of relationships within the staff, players to coaches, coaches to coaches, coaches to players, and they've been tremendous. And in many respects, I know it's fun when we win, but all the hard things that we've been through over the last 2.5 weeks, I just think it speaks to their gumption and their willingness to show up every day and receive the truth and to be accountable. And I think at some point when they can't play, they'll become CEOs, they'll become husbands, they'll become fathers. And these lessons, when they're mine, your age, and I know I'm older than you, but I think those things translate. And I know that's not supposed to be the most important thing in college athletics, but it's still really important to me. And I'm grateful for the group that we have, that they're willing to listen and willing to apply.
Talking to Buzz Williams here. Buzz, I want to follow that up with rebounding, something that your teams always do so well, and the fact that you coach it, and it goes beyond just the positioning and the fight. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the methodology there of putting your team in the right position?
Taking over. Yeah, it's just taking over the whole program. Like, it's like I was telling Coach in Monaco after the game, like it's become so prevalent that to some degree there are some negatives. I just don't ever tell our kids this. Like, we're already on the way to the offensive glass, and we haven't even shot the ball. And sometimes, as much attention as Ford draws and much attention as Boots draws, hey, guys, they might need an outlet to throw the ball to somebody. But there ain't nobody to throw the ball to because they're all on their way to the charge circle to get the rebound. I cannot believe that we're among the worst in the country in three-point field goal percentage, among the worst in the country in effective field goal percentage, yet our offense is ranked 25th in the country. And I don't think that we're the 25th best team. I'm not getting into the net and all of those things, but our offense is 25th, and it's literally because we try not to give the ball to the other team, and we, thus far, we rebound half of the shots we miss. Now, we miss a lot, I understand, but to get half of them, and those two components are why our offense is ranked 25th, because if you look at everything else, it is average at best, and most of it is really poor. But yet, overall, our offense is 25th, and we spend an inordinate amount of time. So this is one day before, and our kids know that in the film room today, a large portion of what we cover will be rebounding for us and our plan specific to Missouri, and Missouri's rebounding plan and what we've studied on what they do on both ends of the floor. And they know, like one day before, we're going to be committed to film study on rebounding on both sides of the ball. And then also they know what we're going to do in practice when it comes to rebounding on 2 days before and 1 day before. And I think our staff's done a really good job as this is all unfolded. Like, we identify those that we think have the ability physically, but also the ability mentally to understand the methodology that we go about in rebounding. Because I think it's just easy to say we play really hard and we chase after it. That is, yes, that's the prerequisite. But on the rise of the shot on both ends of the floor, all five guys have a job, and we literally do a rebounding effort report card for every player, for every possession, whether it's on offense or on defense. And like they'll get their report card today. And they're talking about it during the game to me. Coach, I went that time. That's 100%. I'm like, I don't know. I'm watching 9 other guys. I'll study it tonight. Like it's become part of the fabric of what we do. And obviously thus far it's been incredibly important to us having a chance to win.
Buzz, I appreciate your time, sir. We'll talk to you next week. Billy should be with me then.
No, he won't be because he'll still be in San Francisco, right?
Oh, you're right. And hopefully
then the following Monday, Liucci should be with us, and then the next Monday he won't be with us because he will, wherever the Super Bowl is, he'll still be there. It's an unbelievable deal. He's done a great job of positioning himself. What a good life.
What a great
You
life.
work all day and I work all day, and Liucci goes and watches games and tweets about it. Great gig.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Buzz Williams there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. All right, we'll close it out. We'll come around with Around the SEC. Then I believe we'll have Billy Liucci in the final half hour of the program. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. They got amazing deals on their website. They change them every month. That's the place you want to go to get your vehicle on, guys. I'm going to tell you right now, it is the place to go when you're looking for a new vehicle because they're going to help you throughout the entire process. They got a great selection, great pricing, and great price point trade-in value for you when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. The staff there is second to none. They are incredible, no doubt about that. And when you go, you're going to say, man, Nuño's been right for those last few years. That is right. Caldwell Country Chevrolet is the place to take care of you, and they've done it for a lot of those who work at TexAgs and many people around this community, right? They are proud supporters of A&M Athletics. It is not a far drive. We're talking about 15 minutes, the very edge of Bryan to the beginning of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when they step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in here on this rainy, wet Monday morning. Let's do this. Let's do Around the SEC. Find out what the other programs are doing, and hopefully it's all chaos everywhere else. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center where we find Matthew Dawson. As a reminder, Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. Matthew, what do we have going on in Around the SEC?
David, let me start with golf. Yep, you heard that right. golf. Nick Dunlap, sophomore at Alabama. He's 20 years old. Just won the American Express on the PGA Tour. That is the first amateur to win the PGA Tour event since 1991. So congratulations to him. That is crazy. I know we had that whole run with Sam Bennett just a little bit ago. That was really awesome to see. Crazy to see Nick Dunlap win that. That was really impressive. Transfer portal news. Trey Amos, Ole Miss, or Alabama defensive back, played a lot of nickel for them, slot corner. He's headed to Ole Miss to add to an already loaded class. 5-star transfer, or former 5-star recruit, high transfer portal rated player, Zaylen Hurd, transferring as an offensive tackle from LSU to Tennessee. And I want to talk a little bit about Jaden Rashada, his whole NIL fiasco, where he was offered $13 million by a Gator collective at Florida just for it to fall through, and then he ended up signing with Arizona State. That is officially being investigated by the NCAA. So I wonder, is that going to be, are we going to see more of that in the future, or is this kind of like a linchpin where legislative officials and NCAA people start to realize, okay, this is like a gigantic problem. We can't have this. Is there going to be more legislation as a result of that? More transfer news. Jameer Grimsley from Bama goes to Florida. 4-star Parker Brailsford transfers from Washington to Bama. He plays guard. He's very, very good. He's following Kalen DeBoer there. And in basketball, it's just getting crazy. But the one team that's kind of staying on top right now in the SEC, aside from Kentucky, is Auburn. Auburn has won 11 straight games, all of them by double-digit points, including an absolute beatdown on Ole Miss, 82-59. They're cooking right now. But a lot of other teams in the SEC are too. Tennessee handled Alabama really well. South Carolina beat that Arkansas team, which makes our loss a little bit tougher. But yeah, that's what I got for SEC, around the SEC right now. So
thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Good stuff right there. It's interesting with all the basketball talk and the changes going on across the street, and now that they're not changing anymore, they're working. The fact that we really haven't mentioned baseball that much recently. We did have a segment last week with Kendall Rogers, but just as an FYI, Schloss going to be with us on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to having Schloss to just get us ready. Practice is starting and season right around the corner. So we will certainly talk some baseball and the high expectations that are there for the baseball program. And you look at their transfers, you look at what we think the pitching staff could be like, and offensively how gifted they are. It might be a real fun season for baseball. I know I say that to people, and they're like, hey, man, we thought football was going to be a certain way. We thought about, look, I'm not going to live in fear because of what other programs have done. I'm going to embrace the team that we have, and I'm going to expect for Schloss, the right guy, to go get it done. That's my expectation, and that's how I'm going to handle it. I understand having that little bit of fear as a fan, especially for those of you who have been Houston sports fan over the years, or maybe even Cowboy fans the last little bit. There's always that little apprehension. Yeah, but I'm expecting big things from baseball. And I know Bronny is, and Kendall Rogers is, and Billy expects it as well. Those inside of baseball expect big things this year. Just keep building on what the first 2 years of the Schloss experience has been like. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to hit a break. I believe when we do come back, we will have Billy Liucci. And when we get to Billy, we'll talk a little bit about his Detroit experience. We'll certainly talk about Jordan Peterson joining the Aggie coaching staff and other great things. There's some crazy stuff going on behind me. I don't know what I can hear. I can hear like my mom's phone go off, but it's like a voice talking. So I don't know what the heck's going on. But we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with that. But before we do that, I don't want you guys to replace it. I want you to lift it. And that's talking about the concrete around your home. We're talking about the driveway, sidewalk leading up to your front door, whatever it may be. Or if you own a business and you've got some concrete issues, you don't need to replace it. It is so expensive. Let our friends at Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support take care of you by not replacing it, lifting it. Call them up, 979-933-8527. They are locally Aggie owned and operated, and they're providing easy, clean service at half the price of replacement. They are problem solvers when it comes to most concrete issues. 60 years of professional construction and concrete experience. You've got Brian Dickerson there. He's an Aggie, and he brings it every time. Now, they'll educate you on the lifting process, and they're going to find you the best solution so to make sure that your problem does not escalate. They can take care of you locally, statewide, and nationwide. That means wherever you're listening, they can come to you. They want to take care of you. Residential, commercial, industrial, you name it, they got you. Roads, streets, highways, bridges and approach, curbs and gutters, factory floors. Ascend Lift will tell you about all the things that you need to have done, and they will take care of you at a fraction of the cost. Remember, free estimates. Call them up, 979-933-8527, 979-933-8527. Don't replace it. Lift it with Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. And we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in here on the program. We think we're going to have Billy, but we don't know. But we think we are. So just
we'll give him
bear
a
with
minute
us
or
as we
two
figure
to
that out. I know he was traveling, and there might be some traveling issues. So we'll certainly try to get Billy here on the program. While we're waiting for that, let's chit chat a little bit. If you want to call us, you can do it. You can text us, or you can call us at 979-693 979-693-1150. Again, that number is 979-693-1150. Let's check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center there with Matthew Dawson, who's got a couple texts and some thoughts there on the YouTube page and beyond. So, Matthew, what do you got for us?
Well, there was an unnamed texter a while ago at the beginning of the show when we were talking about Anderson Garcia, and he said he has a little Rodman, like Dennis Rodman. Now, I never got to watch Dennis Rodman, even though you did play for my Bulls on some championship teams. I don't know if you had any comment on that, David, at all. Do you see a Rodman game in Anderson Garcia?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I understand the comparison, right? Like, Dennis actually was not a bad scorer early on in his career. I mean, he wasn't a scorer, but he was not. He just didn't work on it when he became such an elite rebounder that he became an awkward scorer, right? Like, it was just like it's kind of like Charles Barkley trying to do a golf swing. It was just not good, the latter half of his career. But the dude was so fun to watch. He'd get under your skin. The Dennis Rodman persona, which became a caricature of himself. It was like weird to watch it happen in real time, also intoxicating. So completely different off the court, right? But what they both share in common is they are the common denominator in successful basketball. They are the kind of guys that you have on your team to make those game-winning plays. And sometimes they don't necessarily come up with the rebound. It's just the art of tip. People sometimes don't think about the tip, right? But the tip, when you can tip the ball and keep it in the air and have another guy be in position to get it, that is what the elite rebounders do and the elite rebounding teams do. They certainly control the offensive rebound when they can, but when not, they push it back. And, there's not a science to who's going to be there, but there is that mindset of, hey, if Anderson's there, I got to be ready because he'll be able to tip it out to me. And that's something he has done such a good job of. He's really good defensively. He's really good at rebounding. And I really like his touch around the basket. He's become a very effective player. So I love it. I'm all in for it. And call him Dennis, call him whatever. If we had to come up with some other scorers on that team, because not that Wade and Boots are Michael and Scotty, but to stay along with Matthew, that Chicago Bulls time, I think that is something that I think we can certainly kind of borrow from, because Wade would be your elite scorer. You have Boots as your secondary scorer. And this year it's been Henry who's been your second best scorer. What else do you have?
Well, there's been some scuffling back and forth in the YouTube chat a little bit in terms of the offensive line. Tyler Eubanks in the chat said, surprised we didn't get any surefire starters on the offensive line, particularly center and offensive tackle. I feel like offensive line's a really premium position again in the transfer portal, and you don't see a lot of surefire starters in the transfer portal, but maybe you had some thoughts on that?
Hey, no, there are some that go out there. My thing about offensive line is I do believe we have the dudes already. And then, by the way, they brought in a couple premium guys, right? So they brought in some guys, and one in particular that may be competing for a starting role. What I think for this particular offensive line, what I think for the success of, look, the downfall, you can say many things were the downfall to the Jimbo Fisher era. To me, the biggest downfall, and there were some things, was the offensive line not coming together. That's why you had 100 quarterbacks playing. That's why at times it was hard to establish the run, protecting your guys, right? To me, it all comes back to the offensive line. I still believe in the talent that they have in that offensive line room, regardless if you don't think the success was there the last couple of years. I do believe with the right offensive line coach, you have an opportunity to remold those gentlemen into doing the right thing. You fall back to the level of your training, right? And if your level of training and teaching wasn't where it needed to be, and I'm sorry, the results weren't there during the Steve Adagio era. They just were not. As good of a career as he had at Texas A&M, it just didn't result. Now, is it maybe the offensive line philosophy did not gel with what Jimbo wanted to do offensively? That certainly is something that I would listen to. But the results on the offensive line were not good. And to me, it was weird to bring him back for a second year. I understood the why, because a lot of times it takes a coach 2 years, but in retrospect, it was the wrong decision. So now you have Adam Cushing leading that troop in a kind of a new era and a new vibe. And They brought in some dudes. They have some dudes, and they've got some young players coming in too. So for all those reasons, I feel very optimistic. But when one of those, here's the thing, guys, everybody is tampering, right? There's a lot of tampering going on, a lot. And unfortunately, it's kind of like sometimes, have you guys seen this in jobs? And I don't know if, a lot of you guys, this is your first real job if you're working at TexAgs, but like there's a lot of times you'll see a job go on. Back in the day, it was Monster. What is it now? LinkedIn? Is that what the jobs go on? Or, Indeed, whatever these places are, right? A job will go on there and you'll apply for it and it's already been filled. You're like, wait, why'd you posted it like 13 seconds ago? And I feel like that's what happens with transfer portal stuff, right? Like a lot of times, like, hey, so-and-so goes in, and then like, man, I already know where I'm going. Like it's already done. And there are different ways to tamper legally by getting to those close to them. If this guy decides to go into the portal, we've got a nice little package waiting for him here at so-and-so university. And that's just the world we live in. And especially a position offensive line, which was why when Chase Basantis went in, he was highly coveted. It was such a huge coup to get him to come back. I mean, getting him back was so important. And by the way, looks like getting Tyrese Chappelle back too. Two bona fide starters coming back in areas that you needed help on. So no doubt about that. Very pumped about that. Matthew, what else?
Well, let's stay on the transfer portal track because Patrick in the chat says this is a very sad thing. A&M will never win a national championship going to the portal and getting 3-star players. Texas, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State all go to the portal and they get 5-star players. It's like Ohio State, though, they only have 5 portal commits. Like, I think we understand that the model isn't necessarily building your team out of the transfer portal. It's picking pieces that benefit your roster, right? Like, right, David?
Can you go back to the first line, Matthew? Did he say never because we're only getting 3 or 4-star guys? Is that what I heard? Is that what I heard?
He said never. He said the word never.
Okay. Let's play this game. This game is called Let's Revisit History. A&M had, what was it, top 2 or 3 5-star players the last couple of years? Am I right about that? Like,
you would be right about that.
Okay. Did it work out?
There's no national championship there, for sure.
No. They were 7-5 and 5-7. It didn't work out. If you think 500 is working out, then you're fired from not that job, but being a head coach ever. So there's that. It's the right players that fit. Do I agree with you that you need to have a plethora of 5 stars and 4 stars? Yes. But the word never to me does not work in this because here's the bottom line, guys. This is year 1 of the Mike Elko, I don't want to call it an experiment, the Mike Elko experience, just like the Joe Rogan experience, right? This is year 1. After winning 12 games the last 2 years, after having a lot of hype and not living up to the hype, Mike Elko started his run at Texas A&M with a mass exodus, which is less than a lot of other schools, by the way, and had his 2 arms tied behind his back. While I agree they need to stockpile 5-star guys, they need to stockpile the right 5-star guys. We're in a different world of college football that the old thinking cannot be the new thinking, right? You have to be innovative and creative. You have to find what would be classified as a 5-star from the smaller schools and from the schools that go into the portal. Yeah, I want a bunch of 5 stars. Here's that darn 1984 phone again. But the bottom line to me is you've got to get the right guys to fit. Do I think A&M is going to be in the mix for a national championship run in 2024? No, I don't think it. Would I be surprised? Can they have a TCU run? Why not? Okay? But the bottom line is, and I keep saying bottom line, can you protect my quarterbacks? Once you start doing that, then I start having belief. And I do believe they will protect quarterbacks. All right? And they have 5- and 4-star guys across the trenches. If, Matthew, you were to look at the offensive line and the defensive line, how many 5- and 4-star guys, and you talk while this, I didn't know they had answering machines still. They got a freaking answer machine. I heard somebody leaving a message. I didn't know that was still a thing. Matthew, kind of give me the defensive and offensive line perceived guys for next year and the perceived values of them. And not that you have to have the exact 5 stars, but to me, Nick Scorton is a 5-star coming in, right? You know some of the other names, and Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner. So kind of go through some of the names.
Yeah, Anai White is another 4-star who was actually highly recruited by Bama. So if you want to talk about Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, I mean, that's a guy that was highly recruited. That was a Elijah Robinson guy. I believe he was from Pennsylvania. So he's going to be coming off the edge. Malik Silla is another guy that comes off the edge. He was a highly rated recruit. He's a top 100 player coming out of high school. There's still plenty of talent, especially on that defensive line. And then the offensive line, of course, we just talked about Chase Basantis. He was a 4-star in his own right. Bryce Foster was a 4-star in his own right. Camp Dewberry was a 4-star in his own right. And Mark Nabeau, who might be starting at guard, we don't know. Like he was only a 3-star, but you get in the system, you get coaching, you get in the college weight room, and you can really blossom into that role. Trey Zune is another guy that'll be starting at left tackle. He's pretty solid. I'm trying to remember if he was a 3 or 4-star out of high school, but certainly a very, very talented player. And just so the offensive defensive line that we have right now, it is talented when you have 4 and you have 5 stars. Top 100 players out of high school. You have them everywhere, and you had them last year as well. So it's really going to be like, can Mike Elko get this thing going? Can he get it going? And if you want to talk about fit too, like at other positions, you brought this up, David. You brought like having players that actually fit the system really well. Mike Elko, if you want to check about what he's done with the secondary just in this offseason, which we talked about was a problem last year, he has recruited his guys. The average height and length of the DBs that he's recruited is unbelievable. I think they average a height of 6'2". Right, you got DeRicky Wright, who's 6'4". You got Sanders, who's 6'3". I mean, Will Lee's 6'2". I mean, you got guys that are big, and I think he likes that a lot. I mean, Antonio Johnson was a guy that was very big. Jalen Jones was a guy that was very big that he really liked playing DB. So I think as he starts to bring in, you're going to start seeing guys that have a lot of Mike Elko characteristics, if you will. And I think he'll do a good job building his team.
David, you're muted.
Good times had by all. I muted myself.
Hey, there he is.
I was doing that when the answer machine was going off. Let's use Ole Miss as an example here for a moment. Not that I like to compare myself to Ole Miss or A&M to Ole Miss, but Ole Miss has won 11 games this past year, and they've won 10 plus games 2 out of the last 3 years. And they do not have a plethora of 5- and 4-star guys. All right, they don't have. Now they're starting to reap those benefits. And that's where I kind of want to go with this. When you show success in a track record, then all of a sudden the 5- and 4-star guys are like, wait a second, I want to go. And by the way, A&M still has more than they do. I don't know that for a fact, but I know it.
It is
like,
a fact.
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I know I'm right. So in this new world of a college football playoff, do they have enough talent to be one of the 12 teams that gets invited? I think they are. They do. And can that then later reap the benefits? If Ole Miss is winning 10 and 11 games with the talent that they have, A&M should be winning 10 and 11 games with the talent that they have. And then if you get invited to the party, and they will get invited to the party soon, when they get invited to the party, they have a chance to win. And then when you show that success, that's when the rest of the 5- and 4-star guys are like, dude, I was sleeping on A&M. I'm back all in. You can talk, Matthew. I get my script ready.
I agree with you 100%. I got like Ole Miss's stats pulled up from last year, and there are a lot of like red flags. Like you look at like third down percentage, time of possession. They didn't really like dominate holding on to the ball. Their rushing attack was not incredibly efficient, to probably what they were used to from last year. But it was like they made plays down the stretch, and they had explosive plays, and they had elite talent where they needed elite talent. And some of that came from the transfer portal, like Trey Harris and Caden Prescorn and Jackson Dart, for example. So it just, you can have those, if you have a really good coaching staff, which I believe that Ole Miss does, as much as, A&M fans don't like to admit that Lane Kiffin's doing a good job over there. But when you have a good coaching staff and you got some really good talent at certain positions, you can do quite a bit with that. And then, like you said, bringing in more talent in the transfer portal and making it an ideal landing spot for people that are, for kids that are already established and know what they want to get out of this, right? Like kids that are like, okay, maybe this NFL thing is for me. Instead of getting the NIL bag, what if I get the NFL bag? So
let's hit a break here. Good stuff there, Matthew. No Billy today, obviously, guys. I think we're going to have him for an hour tomorrow, so we'll revisit some of these conversations with Billy. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with one final segment. Right now, we're talking Costa Vida. Bunch of Aggie basketball home games, guys. You want to jump all over that for all those games, men and women. They are inside of Reed Arena, directly across from sections 113 and 112. And they've got a great menu when you go to the Reed Arena for Costa Vida. Chili lime chicken and sweet pork burritos. Chili lime chicken. Why do I say it like that? Chili lime chicken and chili lime chicken and sweet pork quesadillas and chips and queso. They got it all there when you go to Costa Vida inside of our Reed Arena. So when you go to one of these home games, make sure you stop by and get your fresh Mex on. And if you're traveling in and about College Station, stop by the South College Station location. Get the entire experience there. Fresh Mex done the right way, where every ingredient matters, and it certainly does when you go to Costa Vida. Say hi to Holly when you go out there. They've got great drink specials there when you go. They've got taco happy hour 2 to 5 o'clock. Buy 2 grilled chicken or sweet pork quesadillas, get 1 free. And they got student discounts. So they got it all out there, and the food is delicious. Aggie owner and operator. Say hi to Holly when you go there. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station or inside Reed Arena during the home games. It is Costa Vida. Final segment of TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984, serving up your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls with reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to the door. Just click doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. And as a reminder, they are not open on Mondays. So I have been going back and forth with Billy. He will join us for an hour tomorrow, so we'll get that kind of ironed out. So we'll get a full hour of Billy on a Tuesday program. I do want to read a text. Let's see where it went. Here it is, 870 area code saying, I believe that once you've had a year of college football or college sports, throw out the stars out of the equation. It's what have you done for me now? And look, not everybody's going to be Anaya Smith and Mike Evans, but I think they worked out pretty well, guys, right? You don't have to always be the 5-star. I want somebody who wants to be at Texas A&M, who wants to get better and has that work ethic. And for me, that is the biggest part of what I would want from my team. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Monday. Appreciate everybody listening, all the prayers sent for my Pops. I certainly do appreciate that. Tomorrow on the show, as I mentioned, we should have Coach Tom Schubert with us, Billy Liucci, and some other curveballs to throw your way. That and more. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you mañana.